This is Kardec Radio for Teens.
And now it's time for real life-changing dilemmas from a spiritist perspective. The Diary of Alex with your host, Mark Smith.
Well, hello friends, and welcome again to another edition of the Diary of Alex. And today the theme that we're talking about is loving yourself. You may remember that Alex has a friend, John, whom he meets regularly after classes. And Alex is visiting with John after a very stressful week. And in this diary, we can see that John's stress seems a little bit heavier than usual, a little bit stronger than usual. And we see Alex worried about him and wondering what could be happening at the beginning of the entry. After much insistence, John decides to open up and discuss what's going on in his life. Let's begin the diary. Dear diary, I have an important event to tell you about. I just met with John after a very stressful week at school, and we had lots of exams this week, and John seemed stressed, though, more than usual, even more than like what I expect him to be like after he went through the exam. Something was going on in his life. I just had an intuition, and so it took me a while, but I got him finally to open up about what he was talking about, and I have to tell you, it's very serious, and we need to make sure that we don't tell anyone. At the same time, I want to make sure I can try to find out a way to help him. So, anyway, John decided to open up after a while, and he asked me first. He says, "Alex, could you just keep this a secret, just between us? Not even my mother is aware of this." And I said, "Sure, most certainly, you can always count on me." Here I am in shock. I see John taking off part of his shirt to expose a little bit below his shoulder. And then I looked and I gasped, and I realized that he's got all these scratches on his back, and some of them are partially bleeding. And I said to myself, "What's going on?" And then by looking at him and looking at his back, I realized he's been hurting himself. And I said, "Why? Why such torment? What's going on?" John told me, and I remember almost word for word, he said, "I hear voices inside myself accusing me of being a traitor, and the only way to find relief is to hurt myself." And I sat there absolutely perplexed. What do I do? What do I do? And I finally decided the only thing I could do at the moment was just to give him a sincere and loving hug, almost like a brother to a brother. But diary, I really don't know what else to do. Well, here, dear friends, we notice that both John and Alex are experiencing, but John especially is experiencing great emotional pain here. And it's important to realize, and it's something that we pray that Alex will help John realize, is that from the Spirit's book, as we learn in the Spirit's book, we're literally never alone. That discarnate spirits are influencing our actions more than we can possibly imagine. And this may very well, and this is indeed at work in self-harm behavior like we've seen here. And why is this so? Well, Spiritist philosophy tells us that we have a spiritual network, kind of like we have a social media network or a Facebook network. We have a spiritual network. Since we are spirits who've incarnated many times, we've developed quite an extensive spiritual network. And these spirits follow us, and they can like our actions, just like they like us on Facebook. So in other words, what spirits are liking our action depends on what emotional state we have at that time, and our past actions. So in the case of John, his past actions may help explain what's going on. We're going to learn more about John as we revisit Alex's past life. And one of the things we're going to learn is that in the 1800s, both John and Alex were farmers who decided to own slaves. And so at the time, John was very strict with those brothers and sisters he put into the position of slaves. And these slaves were learning to forgive John. Those are those invisible voices he hears in his head. But not completely. And this is why they're asking him to hurt himself. From our spiritist perspective, how should we handle the inevitability that we have this discarnate network of companions from this life and previous life, this connection that we have, this heart-to-heart connection? How do we deal with this? Well, as always, Jesus and the illuminated minds are guiding us and offering us guidelines about this. In the Spirit's book, we learn that we choose the trials we're going to undergo prior to reincarnating. So when we come back to life, we already come equipped to face the challenges that are there to educate us and help us progress. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, in the chapter, Love Your Enemies, we learn that some of the people who challenge us may be those discarnate or incarnate spirits that are still learning to love us from previous reincarnations. So putting all this together, what we learn from Allan Kardec and the illuminated spirits, we can ask a new question. And that is, how do we best engage with those incarnate or discarnate companions that are still learning to love us? And according to the Master Jesus and the illuminated spirits, there's two answers to that question. One is that we should love and forgive ourselves. Number two, we should wish for those companions the same kind of love and growthful opportunities that we wish for ourselves. So, we should watch for our own emotional state, monitor the own thoughts that we admit, trying to do our best to replace all those negative thought patterns and feelings with more positive and loving ones, and certainly to forgive those who have harmed us. So, how many of us, like John, may wish that we were better or that we behaved differently? How about, instead of judging ourselves, we do something else? We experiment with telling ourselves the following: I am worth loving. I have unlimited potential. I deserve and accept the very best. I am love. You are love. We are all love. So, by engaging in such a shift in our thinking and emotions, wow, that's challenging. All of us here would like to invite you to and your family and everyone around us to reflect on the following questions. Has self-criticism or criticism of others ever really changed who we are or allowed us to progress? Are the negative thoughts that we have just attracting more negative thoughts? How can we change the thought patterns that are around us? Change the thoughts we admit. Change the negative thought patterns to more positive ones. In the Genesis, Kardec explains that we send these thought pictures into our communities, into the settings that we live in. So, and we're inviting those spirits who think like us to come closer to us and identify with us. So why not change the source of these thought patterns, the source of these pictures that we send out into the spirit world? Why not embrace this loving and kind challenge? What we need is love. So love yourself and expect more love to come your way. And let's now say a meaningful prayer. Dear Spirit Mentors, thank you for reminding us today of the power of love and the power of changing our thoughts, and reminding us through the illuminated spirits that there are spirits around us that share the same energy and the same thought patterns as we do. Let's right now send those spirits a beautiful message of love. Let's send everyone whom we meet on the incarnate and discarnate planes the message You are worth living. You have unlimited potential. You deserve and accept the very best. You are love. We are all love. And let's remind ourselves that we ourselves are love. That we deserve and accept the very best. That we have unlimited potential. And that we are worth loving. And so be it. Well, I hope this message was meaningful and helpful to all of us, an important reminder of love and forgiveness. And thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.